And welcome to the Business Spotlight. I'm Patrick Dewar. My guest today is Kasandra Vitacca, and well, she's basically a wealth coach, more than that. She's a good friend of mine that's been a wealth coach to me for a number of years, and I'm so thankful because her whole design and the desire of her business and her life today is helping others, especially her clients, reach financial freedom using the tools that she brings to the marketplace. She is a Stanford graduate for both her bachelor's and her master's, and has served a number of years in the professional world as a, let's say, maximizing employee productivity for larger corporations around the U.S. But now, in the last few years, she's found what I call the mix between her purpose and her passion, and has created a whole lifestyle of training others to reach financial destiny in a real special way. Kasandra, thank you so much for being on the show.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
Well, it's a lot of fun to have you here because, one, I've wanted you on the show for a long time.
Yep.
Because I knew that your message and the things that you're doing are so powerful, so unique, and so, I want to say, family transformative.
Absolutely.
But before we get into all that, tell me your story. How did you actually create the life that you now live?
Like anybody's story, there's a lot that goes into it. And I'm not going to belabor all the points and all the ways that you end up kind of where you are, but it's kind of that perfect storm, and it really was. I think the easiest way to think about my story is I am a single mom, adore my child, I'm a working professional, I love my family and take care of people in my family as well, and had worked in corporate America for most of my career. I left Stanford and went into corporate America, universities, nonprofits, big corporations. What happened in the process of working for these organizations was I realized there was a lot of information that I had that was transforming sort of what the business was doing. And I knew that information could apply to me, but I couldn't find anyone to help me translate it to me personally.
Right.
Now, when you're dealing with, $30 million budgets or $100 million budgets, it kind of didn't fit like, it wasn't my budget, right? So I couldn't see the information that I was working with these presidents and CEOs and these board members, what I was teaching them and what I was working with them on, I couldn't translate it to my life.
Right.
But the reality is just take off a lot of zeros and it's me. So how I got here in my story is the fact that there were some things in my life that I knew I was not realizing, and strictly from a financial perspective, I was not getting sort of all the growth on my dollar that I could.
Right.
When you think about it, and this is an expression I say to everybody, there's more money that flows into you and away from you than you could ever possibly save and invest.
Correct.
Make sense?
Yeah.
When you think about the vacations and the educations and the weddings and the healthcare premiums and the mortgages and the cars, I mean, it's lifestyle. We're going to spend that money. But you actually can receive guaranteed contractual growth on those dollars. And I knew this from business, and I didn't understand why I couldn't do it personally. So in the process, at some point, I finally started asking questions. I finally started asking my financial advisors and others financial advisors, because I had a whole slew of them, help me out here. They knew some things, but mostly they just knew traditional processes.
Sure.
And it really takes a non-traditional approach to sort of what is traditional, and that's what I walked into when I started working with people at Personal Economics Group. Those are the folks I hooked up with. They're a whole group of independent folks like myself who took some of the knowledge that I already had and put it in a way that I could understand it and go, there you go, that's me, and I could figure this out. And I became a client. Mm-hmm. And in the process, I honestly did not enter this profession because I wanted to. I entered this profession because it was undeniable that I had the ability and the mindset to help other people. And I had to go into this profession. And because I'm more of a missionary than a mercenary, it absolutely is my missionary calling. And it's been phenomenal since.
Well, I completely get that, because that's your life process. When you get into something, you dive in both feet all the way,
Absolutely.
4 feet under, 8 feet under, whatever, so that you're totally immersed in it. And then the one thing that's been really fun is to see that you've actually put yourself in a position where you're a national entity.
Yes.
I mean, you're on one of the best top 2 or 3 in your company, as I understand it,
Yeah.
which is pretty phenomenal for the amount of time that you've been in there.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that. If you were to sit there and say, you know, for people that are out there right now and they're looking at their finances going, I sure end up with a lot less buck at the end of the month than I should.
Yeah.
What's a quick tip you could tell them? What do you think is one thing you learned real well?
That's a good question. A quick tip. People always want that, right? I'm not really a quick tip person.
Very good.
I'm a little more of Aesop's fables, the tortoise and the hare. You know, who wins?
Right.
The tortoise, right?
Yeah.
So the hare looks real sexy, right? I mean, the rabbit's real fun and real snazzy and gets there fast, but who wins? So there are no quick tips. There's no fast track to wealth. It's kind of slow and methodical, but you get there.
Well, I know that as we come to the end of this break, we've got a couple of other segments here. We're going to learn more about how you can begin the process of creating what I call third generational wealth. It's your own family banking system is what it sounds like. And I was so excited to be a part of that and seeing that process as I got to know Kasandra a few years ago, became a client of hers, and just like her, became a client, learning. It's a great tool, a great way to change your lifestyle to begin to prepare for your grandchildren's children. With that, this is the Business Spotlight. I'm Pat Dewar. We'll be right back after this.
You can become a published author. Discover a system that will lead you from idea to having your book on the bookshelves. Bob Baer pulls back the curtain at the More Power to Publish workshop. Watch and learn how to follow the step-by-step plan to turn your idea into a published book. Learn more at morepowertopublish.com.
And welcome back to the Business Spotlight. My guest today is Kasandra Vitacca. She's a, I want to say personal wealth coach, but so much more than that. She's a teacher and an educator in her own right. And when I say that, she's somebody that is on a mission to help others understand how to create an inheritance for their grandchildren's children. Third and fourth generational wealth kept within a family. Kasandra, thank you again for being on the show.
Glad to be here.
I'm really wanting to get into some of the things that you're doing because you're, like you said, an educator, a teacher, and a constant learner, I know. When you look at what you're doing in the marketplace, tell me a little bit more about what you're doing to create the success you're having.
The success I'm having, first of all, and foremost, it has to be stated, is really not of me. And I have to make that clear, and that might feel a little strange to some people in the audience, but a lot of people work hard. A lot of people do the things I do in terms of for the practical things. I get up every day like hardworking citizens. I make the phone calls. I mean, I run my own business. Every business owner gets up, you know, makes the phone calls, follows up on their clients, and keeps following up, you know. So it's not that there's anything rocket science about what I'm doing to create success. I mean, there's tons of books written about it. So that's why I say sometimes it just works. Sometimes there's some other power out there working on you. And so in my case, it has worked. Let me tell you one thing that I do know that is fundamental, though. And again, this is a little fuzzy, right? I mean, it is what it is. I wake up every day being very clear that I don't know exactly who's going to work with me, who's going to allow me to work with them.
Right.
There are 7 billion people on this planet. Someone's going to work with me.
Right.
So I do know that, so I don't worry about it. And I recognize that it's an opportunity to interact with people. I never know who's going to be presented to me exactly. I might have some agenda, but I've met them at some random event, right? At some networking event, some business meeting. And so I go into every meeting, I go into every encounter with someone being clear that, yeah, I want to have a business conversation with you. Can I change your life? Absolutely. Unequivocally, right?
Right.
I know I can. You don't know that.
Correct.
Right? And I don't know why you might choose to interact with me. And so, again, that probably sounds amorphous, but it really is, you know, I recognize every day is kind of a blessing, and every person that allows me to interact with them is going to tell me parts of their story.
Sure. But you have a story, though, that when you're interacting with somebody, you want to get them into the modality of what's your future look like financially.
Yeah.
And it's not so much from trying to sell them something, but as serving them. And
Yes.
actually, I take it a step further. You call yourself an evangelist, and I confer.
Yeah.
Because you've got an idea that's revolutionary. I mean, whether it's infinite banking or something of that, what's the term you use?
The generic term is privatized banking. There's a trademark term that is called the private reserve system.
Right. Now, where did you guys come up with that, and what does that mean?
I think private reserve system was just something we made up, to be honest with you.
Well, there's usually plucked from air for a lot of terms.
The whole system is predicated on a purchasing platform. It's an economics-based approach to looking at your money. It's the truth about how money works. It is not about a fancy financial product or investment that's going to make you millions of dollars. There's no such thing. I think that's where a lot of people, and no disrespect, but I talk to a lot of people, and they always want to sort of hawk their latest get-rich-quick scheme product, and it doesn't work that way. It's not one thing. It's a series of things, and you have to understand how they all work together. But most people don't take the time, because it's hard, because it's our life. We're trying to feed our kids and love on our husbands and be a friend to our girlfriends, or you know what I mean? And we're trying to be a volunteer. We got a lot going on. So the system really is about a holistic approach to where are you putting your money and why. It's predicated upon the fact that everything is first and foremost a purchase. Taxes, whether you want to pay them or not, they're a purchase. Got to pay them every year, right? Mm-hmm. Your health care premiums you got to pay every year. Your mortgage you got to pay every year. You want to go on vacation every year. So every year you're storing up this pool of capital to transfer to pay for that purchase. Mm-hmm. An investment is first and foremost a purchase. The system is based on contractual guaranteed uninterrupted growth on the accumulation, even while it's being deployed for the purchase. Because even if you pay the taxes for the year, do you not have to replenish your bucket?
Right.
So, you put the taxes out there, and then you spend the year replenishing your bucket. So you really have a loan to yourself, you're in debt to yourself. You can continue getting growth on the underlying bucket, even while the taxes are being paid.
Right. And the thing that I saw in this is that it's something that is transgenerational. Mm-hmm. It's something that if you teach your children how to carry this forward,
absolutely,
and they continue this process, it really makes it so that you have that it's learn the child right, and that when they're old they won't depart.
Exactly.
It's the same kind of thing that the very wealthiest families in the world have used for 300, 400, 500 years or more. And a lot of people don't realize that, do they?
It's the systems of the uber wealthy. I'm on a mission. Really? People got to get ready. When I sit down with clients, I tell them, you better be ready, because this is generational, uber wealthy families are made of these systems.
Right. Right. So very good. Awesome. Well, I know that we've got another 2 segments to the Business Spotlight. This is Pat Dewar. My guest today is Kasandra Vitacca. She's my I'll say wealth coach, but even beyond that, she's a good friend. And she's somebody that has a message to help you become long-term uber wealthy. I know that may sound a little funny, but the fact is that if you use the principles of that little by little, bit by bit, as scriptural as that is, it works. You put way for a rainy day, but even beyond that, you create an attractor factor. This is Pat Dewar, and we'll be right back.
You can become a published author. Discover a system that will lead you from idea to having your book on the bookshelves. Bob Baer pulls back the curtain at the More Power to Publish workshop. Watch and learn how to follow the step-by-step plan to turn your idea into a published book. Learn more at morepowertopublish.com.
Welcome back to the Business Spotlight. I'm Pat Dewar. Today we've got a great show going about creating wealth that's transgenerational. When you think about creating a nest egg for your grandchildren's children, most people don't think that long term. But you know what? The uber wealthy do, and they always have. They've understood that little by little, bit by bit, you can create wealth. And my guest today is Kasandra Vitacca, and she's on a mission to help others begin to embrace a new way of, well, maybe an old way of thinking about money. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Kasandra, I want to get into the clients that tend to work with you.
Okay.
Who are some of the clients that begin to get it? Because you're talking about something that is a system of savings that's a little unique, but has extreme consequences in a good way if you do it right.
Sure. That question is the question of, what's your ideal client, right?
Sure.
And actually, I was going over this with a group of my colleagues yesterday, as a matter of fact, to define that. And for some folks, I know they want you to tell you, okay, that 35 to 55 range. And honestly, from a demographic perspective, it's kind of a lot of my clients. They kind of hang out in that space. And there's a reason why the 35 to 55, 60 makes sense, because they're kind of still in what's called accumulation phase.
Sure.
And that 50-ish range, at 55, is starting to go, they're starting to end the accumulation, or at least they want to.
Right.
But there's still this idea that we're still in accumulation, we're still growing, and so their mind is prepared for that. Definitely someone, but I'm going to be less, demographic oriented, because yeah, we can say, 35 to 55, married with kids and a dog, and goes to church on Sunday. I mean, we can make these things, plays baseball, I don't know, we can make stuff up, right? The reality is this: the type of person that works best with me, oftentimes, and this becomes a little more, again, that gray area. It is someone who doesn't think they already have all the answers.
Right.
Has enough humility to recognize that they may not know everything. Because the reality is, you're going to be humbled. Because
Right.
I'm going to tell you about things that you did or are doing that aren't the best.
Right.
I'm going to be nice about it, but I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to point out why the contracts where you have placed your money, people have buckets of money. They have buckets of where they're putting play. I wouldn't, they don't even know why. When I ask them, why are you doing that? Did you read the contract? Do you understand what happens when you try to get the money? They honestly have no idea. And it's not their fault, and I really try to help people understand it's okay. You are where you are. People have debt, and they're embarrassed. So, but we're going to have honest conversations about it. It's not about judgment. It's about, let's have an honest conversation about it. So someone needs to be ready to have an honest conversation about where they are.
So I hear that you're working with people that are not so much demographic, it's psychographic. It's
Yes.
the idea that they're willing to learn, they understand that you've got a system,
Yes.
a tool,
Yes.
that if employed, so to speak, if used, it could change their life. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
So how long does something like this take to really get going for somebody?
Because it is a learning process, from the moment when I'm meeting somebody and they sit down and have a conversation, we're going to talk for an hour and a half just to get to know each other.
Right.
Because here's the reality. I don't work with everybody, and not everybody wants to work with me.
Right.
I make it real clear to people, this is true partnership. I'm going to be your family financial, your CFO for your family,
Right.
And you'll get more out of me if you allow me to be that.
Right.
If you put me into a box and let me just do one little piece of your life for you, you can do that. I mean, I work with financial products and tools. I can get you one of those tools, and maybe you'll be a little bit better off, but I really am more holistic than that. So it's about, do you really want to let me in,
Right.
at that level? So it's going to be about an hour to an hour and a half the first time. It goes longer just because we're talking so much. But this has been an hour time. When the person, if they decide to come back, it's because they're coming back with their information.
Right.
They're ready to show me, what do they have? What are their assets and their liabilities? What are their hopes and their dreams? Because that matters.
Right.
And let me make a statement here because it's important. Their hopes and dreams are more important than really where all their buckets are. Because money is not math. Money is human behavior. If you study economics, which I did, it sits in the school of soft sciences. It's not a hard science. I'm a social scientist. So I understand what the people are going through. They have to be willing to let me in on that process as well with them.
Right.
So the second time we're going to sit down and go over lots of numbers. We're still not done because we still got to come back. There's still other processes. It's a good 6-hour process, not all at once, but it's a 6 to 10 hour learning process before they're ever doing anything with their money.
So what I'm hearing, though, is that you're doing a lot more than just I want to say you're educating
Yes.
in a way that's changing a mindset. You're literally going through the process of shifting them off of the historical
Yes.
patterns and programming to something that is longer term.
Yes.
So that's something that's a real mind shift, and a lot of people don't get that. I know as we go into this next segment, you guys are going to really want to learn more about what Kasandra does to help you reach your long-term goals. This is Pat Dewar. We'll be right back.
You can become a published author. Discover a system that will lead you from idea to having your book on the bookshelves. Bob Baer pulls back the curtain at the More Power to Publish workshop. Watch and learn how to follow the step-by-step plan to turn your idea into a published book. Learn more at morepowertopublish.com.
And welcome back to the Business Spotlight. My guest today is Kasandra Vitacca. She's a personal wealth coach that's been helping me for a number of years, and I wanted her to come and tell her story and really maybe help persuade some of you guys to become longer-term thinkers about your own personal financial management and long-term wealth for your children and maybe even their children. Kasandra, thanks again for the show. I want to talk this time a little bit about how someone actually becomes a client. You started last time. You told them that you go through a training process. What are you really doing? Are you training or retraining?
Both. I
Right.
mean, you know, it definitely is people don't like the word ignorance, but the reality is it just means you don't know.
Right.
People aren't stupid. There might be a few, but most of people.
Hey, I only took a little while to come on board, right?
But the reality is they're just ignorant. People don't know. And so, yeah, there's part of it we just have to train. But then also, a lot of times what people think they know is not true. And that's where there's the retraining. And that's where some people actually fall off.
Right.
Because they really can't take it in. They're not ready. I've been doing this now, I guess, with individual clients, I guess about 5 years now. And a lot of folks who maybe in the beginning when I first started talking to them, it took them maybe a year or two to come back, but they've come back.
Right.
Because they're not ready. So, you know, again, the process, or you've asked me about that, you know, someone coming on board, we're going to, and this is why I say to folks, I'm not charge for my time to sit here and learn from me. This is not, you know, this is my missionary point, right? But I said, but please don't waste my time.
Right.
You know, they're going to learn a lot. We're going to structure a whole heck of a lot for them. So be honest with me along the way. If you really don't ever want to do business with me, tell me. Will it hurt my feelings? Probably a little bit. I might cry a little bit, but I'll get over it. You know, and actually, to be real clear, sometimes people don't want to work with me personally, but I have other colleagues that have completely different personalities, you know, boys, girls, different colors, different ages. What do you want? You know, honestly, get the information. That's really important.
Well, see, that's one of the things, though, is that when someone comes on board, like when we started working with you, it was the education that was so important, the changing of the mindset. Because marketing, you know, I believe marketing is everything and everything is marketing, right? But even beyond that, if that's the case, then everything that we've ever seen on TV or anything else has been somebody's programming me.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you come along and say, it doesn't work real good long term.
Yeah.
When you bring somebody on board, they start engaging with you.
Yes.
About how long do you think it takes before the things that they're doing with you actually begin to produce results in their life?
I already know this answer. So, honest to God, and this is probably going to freak people out, and this was my experience too, it takes probably about a year before people have that epiphany, they have epiphanies, otherwise they wouldn't have become a client, right? There are light bulbs of moments of realization where they go, I need some more help, and they hear what I'm saying, and they look at the numbers, and they understand the process, and they understand the strategy, and they come on board and become a client. But inevitably, I have to sit down with clients 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, and kind of go over some of the same stuff and look at the numbers again. And it just, sometimes, you know, they're snapping to at the 3-month mark. So, you know, most people are snapping to kind of about that 9 to 12 month mark where they go, oh, I really get it now. And partly because they don't know how to teach it. So they feel like they don't know it.
Right.
And they hold themselves accountable because they don't know what to tell their friends. What happens is I don't start getting referrals from my clients till about a year in. Because they don't know how to say anything to anybody. That's why it takes a year for them to feel like I can say something now. So.
But I mean, it's a little bit like eating right or working out, isn't it?
Oh.
I mean, you know, they haven't come out with the one pill herbal liposuction yet.
I'm up for that. I'm up for that.
Like, give me that. All right. Okay, so moving on. But the issue is that once somebody begins to work with you and they begin to learn the process, and then they begin to see the results.
Yes.
What happens after that? If they begin, how long do you think it takes before somebody actually begins to start changing a lot of things in their career, so to speak, in their way they'd spend money?
You know, and I'm thinking of clients right now. I'm sort of going through the client list. People really, because of what, you know, it takes us 6 to 10 hours to map, because we are mapping out a strategy. We're having serious conversations about, can you do this?
So you're actually giving somebody a financial plan that is a life plan with money. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh, yeah. And they're making decisions around it. And I'm real generous to people. Let's put it this way. I always map out the most brilliant, absolutely will be a multimillionaire plan. It's brilliant, it's perfect if they do it just like I say. No one ever does it just like I say. They never do. And so people do make adjustments as soon as they become a client. They're making adjustments. But it's like working out. I mean, you're running on the treadmill, man, maybe you can only go a mile. But as soon you look up and you're running, you know, a half marathon, right? How long that takes, how much time are you putting in, you know? This really is akin to being healthy. I'm a fitness professional for finances. I can show you how to use this stuff. I can show you what to do and when. I can't make you do any of it.
I totally get it. I mean, I've seen you do this for a number of people. And the thing that's really neat is that you started as a client, you continued as a client with the company that you work with.
Yeah.
You're a user and somebody that can teach others. So the coolest part about that is that you actually have what I'll call is the mantle of authority to really share about how you change others' lives. I will tell you, folks, Kasandra has been a blessing to me and my family for a number of years now. Connect with her. Get with her. Go to Epiphany Financial. Connect with her online. But you know what? The phone is probably the best way. This is the Business Spotlight. We'll talk to you next time.